Hello folks, welcome to the canal channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how to replace the battery on a 2008 to 2018 GMC Sierra, Silverado or Tahoe. And for this procedure we're going to be using a 1/2-inch socket, 10mm socket and a couple extensions so we can make the job easier. With that said, let's get started. So as we're looking at our truck and we open the hood, right on this corner by towards the back by the passenger, we have the battery. And we have this bar that we have to take off, and then we have to remove this one that goes down here, and then we have to remove a bracket that holds the battery in place so it doesn't shake around, and then we have to disconnect the wires or the terminals for the negative and positive so we're able to extract our battery. For this procedure we only need a 1/2-inch socket and a 10mm socket. So you're trying to reach the battery area location and you're not reaching, and you don't want to lean anything against the paint of the truck. You can pile up 2 spare tires that you have around, and that's going to give you a little bit more height so you can reach all the bolts and everything that we're going to about to show you how to take off. So that's a tip that we'll give you. That way you don't lean into it with a ladder or with a chair and scratch your paint. And here's the battery that we're installing. It's a H6 from Duralast. So this is the one recommended for these trucks. To start, we're going to remove 1, 2, 3 bolts that are holding this bar that goes over the battery. We need to remove this, and then once we remove this, we're going to remove a bracket that goes down to the base of the battery. But we start with this 1/2-inch bolts, 3 of them. So now that we have removed the top bracket, we need to remove this supporting bracket that goes down to the base of the battery, and that's a 1/2-inch bolt that we need to remove this, because this is gonna keep us from sliding all the wiring harness away from the battery when we need to extract it. So we want to get this out of the way. So to make your job easier on removing that bolt in the bottom and the other one over here, you can use extensions. That way when you put your tools, everything's outside and you're not getting your hands right underneath there and making it complicated. So a couple extensions will work because you'll be working way out here, but you're still taking out the bolt that are in the bottom. So use some extensions. Now that we have removed the bottom bracket coming over through the wires, now we have to remove this bolt that is holding the bracket that holds the battery, so it doesn't shake or it bounce around. That's for the base of the battery. So that's a 1/2-inch. We remove that so that way we loosen the battery from its place. So now that we have loosened that bracket and took it off, now what we have left is the 2 wires, the negative and the positive. So as you can see, the battery is already loose. So we have to take the negative first off and then the positive. We need a 10mm for that negative terminal and a 10mm for the positive. We start with the negative first. So now we're going to take off the negative terminal by loosening it. And one thing that we have noticed is that when you feed your socket and your extension, you're not actually hitting the hood or the battery when you're trying to taking it off. GM put that terminal with the angle where you can actually work really comfortable on taking it off. As you can see, we're loosening it. Once you loosen it, we take off our tool, and it wasn't that hard to loosen that terminal. So now we just get the wire off the post of the battery. Now we have removed the negative terminal. So now for the positive, there's this plastic cover, this red plastic cover, and right on the side it has a little tab that you gotta pull and then lift away, because there's hinge over here and that exposes your positive on your battery. So there's a 10mm nut that we have to loosen, so that way we can take the terminal off and then flip all this away so the battery is by itself. Once we loosen the terminal, as you can see, it's loose, but now we have to lift a plastic tab on this side. You can fit a screwdriver and pry it, and it is gonna allow you to pull this out. There's 2 more tabs on this side that you're gonna have to pull a little bit with your fingers, or you can just push as you pull up that way. So now we have the battery right here. We have that wire harness for the positive, lean back, and what we did, we put it right underneath this bracket, and that corner of the plastic is right on that hole, so it's holding itself from folding back to where the battery is. For this test to pull the battery out, we're gonna have to lean it and get it on an angle, because this is the 94 series 94R, and this battery is about 6 years old. So we're replacing it because this engine is sounding a little weak when we try to start this engine. So we're replacing it with the H6, and this one is longer than the what we're putting in. So you might be having a little trouble extracting it from here because the reservoir for the coolant is right next to it. So with that, we're gonna show you how we pull the battery out of there. So we have the two batteries right here, the 94R that came out, and that's the H6 that is going in. The one we took out is about 2 inches longer than the one we're putting in, but the one with the putting in is a 730 cold cranking, and the one we took out is a 720. So the only difference on these two batteries as far as the structure is that this one had more capacity of charge than that one. So that means that this one could be longer. If you leave your lights on, it will last longer to drain out than the H6. So now another thing, you see those little holes right on top next to the positive? Well, we're gonna show you the purpose of those two little holes, so when you're putting it back. Now we're showing you the purpose of those two holes in the battery. This is your positive terminal, the box where it shows the terminal. This one and this tab goes right into those holes in the battery. It goes right there and then that one. So they're guides, so the cap falls straight in and it doesn't move around. So that's the point for those two little holes, which that battery has as well. So now we put the battery. So now we're about to put our battery, and one thing that we noticed is that this one, they took the handle off to grab it from. So this one has the handle, so when you buy it, you can carry it up to your car. One thing I would do is that once you put it on your car, leave it in there and just fold it down, because that one day when you want to remove it to charge it or do anything, you're going to have an easier time pulling it up from your vehicle because it has a handle to grab it from. Then this one, they took it away, so now you got to grab it with your almost with your nails to pull it out of the car. So you're going to be folding your nails back, and that's not fun. So leave that handle to grab it from once you put it on your car. So one thing I do is once you're going to put the brand new battery, I grab my wire brush for battery terminals and I clean the terminals, so then you can have a clean contact on the negative and positive side. That way when you install the battery, it's a really good ground and a really good positive. What we have done is we have installed our battery. It's not attached to the frame yet, and what we have done is before we connect the battery terminals, we are going to add this battery installation kit, which is a grease and these foams that you put in each terminal. Green for negative and red for positive, and this keeps the corrosion or the acid from building up in your terminals, so it lasts longer. So now that we have put our installation kit, what we do is we install the positive first and then the negative, and we tighten in the positive and then the negative. Now when you bring your positive harness over to be connected to the battery, what you do is you slide it over and you work it in slowly, and remember those two little guides that go into the battery structure, and then once you put that on, you tighten in the positive with a 10 millimeter, and then we move to the negative. So when you're tightening these clamps, don't over tighten them, because this is lead and you can break these clamps. So you just give it a snug. So now we have the base bracket. This is what holds the battery tight into the frame of the truck. But what we haven't done is we haven't put it on. So we're about to put it on. We just line it up, because in the beginning we have all the wiring that we want to make sure lines up. Once we line up the positive and negative and everything's fine up here, now we can put the bracket. Because if you put the bracket and you have to slide the battery back or forth, then you gotta come down here, loosen it, and then do your adjustment and then tighten that again. So we just leave it until the harness is tied up, and then we can tighten that. So we line it up and we tighten the 1/2" bolt with our wrench. We're about to put this bracket that goes from the bottom of the battery tray to support on the upper brace, and there's 4 bolts in total for that task. But this silver one, or there's 3 black ones and one that looks like metal. The metal one goes and tightens that bracket on the bottom. The other 3 are for the upper piece that goes across on the brace to this place, and this place over here by the fender. We have put the bottom bracket, the upper bracket, we have set the bolts into it, so that way they're all snug, so that way they start lining up. Because if you tighten the bottom one and then this one doesn't line up, that's why you snug him and then you just tighten him. So now that we have set him, we tighten him all the bolts. We start with the upper bracket. And well, folks, we're done with the replacement of our battery on our truck. There's a brand new battery in there. We have that old battery right there. And one thing that we want to say is that certain models or cars, when you replace a battery, the computer can act, or it can lock itself if you don't do the procedures on replacing the battery the right way. So on our GMC, nothing happened. We just disconnected the battery, put a new battery on, connected it, and then the computer, and nothing got affected. So now we're going to start our engine to show you that everything's back to normal. So as you can see, our engine is running. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Everything's back to normal. And well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful. And the most important part about this is getting the right battery, because your terminals, if you end up in the wrong spot, this harness is going to be really tough to put it on the terminal. So you want to make sure that the battery that you want to buy for your truck is the right one. And for this procedure, we only use 10mm for the terminals and 1/2" socket for the bolts that hold the brackets around in the base of the battery. So we took off the battery. It took about 30 minutes. And also you want to use a couple extensions so you actually work above the engine and not bury it in there. So it makes your job easier. You don't hit your knuckles in the wiring or on the sharp edges or in the metals. So with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like our video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here en el canal, El Chano José.